welcome to Valid of Vietnam. My name is James Scott of the Sacramento Public Library. Valid of Vietnam is a joint venture between the Sacramento Public Library and the Vietnam Veterans of America, Sacramento Valley's Chapter 500. It's our intent to trace the arc of experience of our local Vietnam veterans as they went from Sacramento to Vietnam and then back again. Today's guest, Jerry Alexander, spent a tour of duty in Vietnam with the 69th Armored Battalion, which was attached to the Fourth Infantry Division, Pleiku and An Khê. Jerry, welcome to Valid of Vietnam.
Thank you, James.
And of course, welcome home. It's great to have you here. Now, as it's very common, as we start out our episodes, we talk about your early years and growing up wherever you're from. In this case, we have a Sacramento kid, which is kind of the essence of Valid of Vietnam. Tell us a bit about your memories of growing up in North Highlands. We've got everything from cruising down K Street to your experiences at Highlands High School. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, growing up in North Highlands, my family moved there in 1952, so it was across the street they were still building houses.
Right.
I had a very kind of uneventful childhood. I had a Sacramento B route in high school to make some money, and my dad and I were the hunters and the fishermen, and we did all of that, and pheasant, duck, dove, the whole works. High school was okay. I mean, I wasn't with the in crowd. I was on the fringes of the in crowd, so to speak.
Gotcha.
But I did play the drums in the bagpipe band, which was a tremendous experience. The 3 years that I was there, every year we marched in the St. Patrick's Day Parade in San Francisco.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh,
that's
it was.
So cool.
I've got a picture of me in my kilt. Should have brought it. But yeah, that was a really, really excellent experience. The people that were doing it, I think we had 6 pipers and 3 drummers and 4 dancers, where they would do the sword dance.
Oh, the sword dance, that's right.
Oh,
and you guys were obviously you were the Scots.
The Scots.
Of Highlands High School.
So,
okay.
And I graduated probably with a C average. I mean, I was just glad to get out of high school, and I kicked around for a little bit and worked at a gas station, and then I decided that things in my family were deteriorating rapidly, and I needed to get out. So I joined the Army at 17. My parents signed for me. But like I say, my childhood was fairly normal. Nothing. The bagpipe. I tried out for the football team, but that lasted 1 day.
Yeah, I can totally.
I'm just too small.
Right. I was gonna say I gave sports a couple shots when I was in high school too.
I did do. I was on the swimming team one year. So,
okay.
But that I mean, I had a girlfriend, and of course I don't know where she is now or anything.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much my childhood.
You had mentioned, if I could interrupt for a second.
Sure.
You had mentioned, well, you do have a passion for cars, and you love your car.
Yes, I do.
And you had mentioned when we had talked in pre-production that you enjoyed cruising down K Street. Can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
back in my junior and senior year, after I got my license, I had an old Volkswagen Beetle. In fact, it was like a 59 or 58, where it had the blinkers, your turn signals would come out on the side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And either my car or one of my friends or something, we'd after a basketball game or football game, we'd pile in the car, and if we were lucky, we'd snag a few beers and and cruise K Street for a couple hours, and it was so much fun because people were talking to each other. I mean, I never saw a fight.
Yeah.
It was just all fun, and I mean, there'd be so many people cruising that you'd be stopped on K Street.
Yeah.
So you get talking to the girl, yelling at, hey, being like dumb teenagers are.
Right, and of course, recently the city has tried to make K Street kind of a vehicular, artery again, but obviously it's not the same.
Oh, it's not.
And so those of us who really love Sacramento history, we love to hear stories like this because there was a magic, right?
Oh, it was. It was just, and every time we did it, it was the same good experience. I never had a bad experience cruising. Met some girls even,
Right.
Lucked out and did that, but I mean, it was just fun because it was kind of like a social thing for us. I mean, there were kids from all over Sacramento, not just Highlands. So we were talking to guys from McClatchy or girls from Bella Vista or San Juan. Like I said, it was just a really good experience.
So you had touched upon really briefly that in April 1967, you're 17 years old, and you volunteer for the Army. But a big component to you volunteering is the element of patriotism.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that in the late 60s?
Yeah, I can. Well, my dad fought in World War II. So, and my Uncle Bobby fought in Korea. My brother spent 4 years in the Navy. So I come from a very patriotic background.
Okay.
And it was instilled in me that to love this country, and I was very patriotic. I love this country, and I felt that I owed my country a debt for giving me the opportunities that it's given me, and that's besides the family thing. That's why I joined, because I just felt it was my duty.
Right. Right. And you also had a real affinity for some of our leaders during the 60s.
Right.
One of your heroes at that time was Bobby Kennedy, and he inspired you in many ways, and he meant quite a lot to you. Can you tell us what it felt like when you heard? Can you kind of set the scene for us when you heard of him being assassinated?
Believe it or not, I was home on leave from Alaska, and my brother and I went to the drive-in. And as we were going out towards the road, the radio was on, and they announced that he'd been shot and killed, and it just broke my heart. I mean, it just shattered me, and that's when I decided that I needed to go to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember where I was when JFK was assassinated. I was in high school, and in the cafeteria getting ready to eat a piece of cherry pie, and they announced it over the loudspeaker that he had been killed, and I pushed the pie away, and of course all the girls were crying, and even some of the boys or guys, and they let us go, and we didn't go to school for 2 days, I think.
Right. Shut it down.
But Bobby was more of a hero to me than JFK.
With that said, you're back from Alaska. You get the news, and the watershed event is Bobby Kennedy, and you're off to Vietnam. Now, you trained at Fort Polk, Louisiana. You did some
my
time.
basic
did
training.
some time at Tigerland, and then Alaska, and then you're off to Vietnam. So when you get to Vietnam, you're with the 69th Armored, 4th ID, Pleiku On K, and tell us a little bit about your role in country.
Okay, I was a scout in the 69th Armor. We had 3 M48A3 Patton tanks, one of the sweetest machines they ever made. You ask anybody that served on one, and they'll say that it was just what we did with them in Vietnam. We couldn't have done with this Abrams tank.
Yeah,
it broke down. I got there, and the first thing I really noticed was when I got off the plane, and that humidity and heat hit me.
Right.
And we're walking to the terminal or whatever it is, and about a couple hundred yards away, they were putting bodies into coffins, and that's the first thing I saw was our soldiers, kind of like what's that movie, Platoon.
Oh, right.
At the very start, it was similar to that. I was with my rank of a specialist 5th class. By the manual, I would be the gunner.
Okay.
Okay, I would be down inside the turret, and but over there, with everybody rotating in and out so much, the crew that Ron and I had, Dave, Mark, and Ron and I, we were together like 3 months.
Yeah, right.
And so we were really a tight crew. But you ended up doing everything. I was tank commander, which I didn't care for, gunner, loader, and driver, which I loved.
Okay.
Driving. So what our purpose was scouting.
Okay.
They'd give us an area on a map, and we'd go out with our also, we had, I didn't mention this, 8 armored personnel carriers.
Okay.
With 4 people crews on all of them, and 3 tanks in those, and they'd give us an area to go search, and we'd get out there and just beat the bush, what we called.
Right.
There were places that were so thick that the main gun, you couldn't see the end of the main gun, you couldn't see past the front of the tank.
Right.
Then we'd bust out into areas that were still defoliating from Agent Orange.
Right. Okay.
We were out 2 or 3, like I said, I think the most I was out was a month. Everything got on you, stayed on you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ron and I were talking, and we both remember getting sprayed directly. So that's been a health problem even to this day.
Yeah.
But we went out searching, and they knew where we were because of all the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Tracks are very noisy. Tanks and APCs are very noisy, and sometimes we found bunkers, or we found tunnel complexes, or something like that. And you would go out one way, and you would come back a different way.
Right.
Because if you came back the same way you went, they'd be waiting for you,
right.
and ambush you.
Okay.
So yeah, I did everything on the tank at one point in time or another in my year.
Okay.
Over there.
All right. Now you had mentioned how in synchronicity a crew would be, you almost become an organic being because everybody has to do their job. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you had to get really close with the guys and get to know them and talk about our strategies. We were close, really close, tight close,
right.
Because we all knew what our job was, and when something happened, you don't think about what you're going to do, you just do it. You don't think, you react. And like I said, we were close, but we didn't show it. Right. But when myself or one of the other crew would get a goodwill package from home, we'd all get to share in it.
Ah, that's great.
Yeah. So it was just and then when I lost Dave and Mark, it was really heartbreaking because they were both very, very good men, very, very dedicated to the United States and to the war, and it was just like I said, we were a steady crew for 3 months, and we did some really miraculous things with those tanks.
Guys encounter any communist tanks when you were there?
Well, there was the only tank battle involved with the 69th Armor was at a place called Ben Het.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. It was a special forces camp plus a regular fire base down below. We had, I think it was A Company was setting up by the special forces, and they heard the rumblings at night and everything. And the next morning, here come 2 old Russian T-76 tanks, 75 millimeter. They got the first shot off, and 2 of our men were killed. But then we knocked out 2 tanks and 1 of their armored personnel carriers.
Got it.
And that's the only tank battle in the war.
Okay. All right.
I was on the other side of
Okay.
the perimeter, because they were hitting us all.
Right.
Ben Het sits right about 5 clicks from where Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos meet.
Oh, okay.
And it was a main infiltration route,
Ho Chi Minh
the Ho Chi
Trail.
Minh Trail. And so at Ben Het, you were under constant sniper fire, mortar fire, because it was such an important route for the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong. One of the worst firefights I was in was one morning clearing that road, and we had a tank, 2 APCs, a tank, 3 APCs, a tank. And what they had cleared the jungle back like 100 yards, 200 yards, to get that chain and hook it up to 2 bulldozers and just.
Right.
Well, they did it so they wouldn't be able to ambush. Well, it just gave more places to hide.
Right.
Well, we were about halfway down the road, and they just let loose with rocket-propelled grenades, and my tank was hit, and the very rear tank was hit, and they do that because we would block the road, basically.
Right, there was no escape for the middle units.
But there was enough room for the middle tank to operate, and they were going up and down the line, firing the main gun. Mm-hmm. When your vehicle's disabled, you get off of it real quick because you're a target. Right. A stationary target. When we were hit, we all grabbed our M16 or shotgun or personal weapon bandoliers and got off and laid next to it, but there was like a little berm that just enough for us to hide under, and we shoot our M16s. And it lasted about an hour and a half.
Okay.
Of intense fighting. Afterwards, we found, none of our guys were killed. 6 were wounded, 2 very, very seriously, and I believe they both survived. That was about the scariest battle or firefight that I was in, because it was just on both sides. And it was the NVA, North Vietnamese regulars.
So the regulars are now moving in.
And they, when we run into them, they stay and fight. The VC, Viet Cong, would hit and run.
Right.
And their purpose was to cause casualties, not necessarily deaths.
Right. So at this stage of the war, the NVA is moved into the Central Highlands, 2 Corps.
Oh, the whole South Vietnam.
Yeah. So
because the Ho Chi Minh Trail went all the way down past Saigon into the Delta there.
Right. So full penetration. So it's a new war by that point, for sure. Now we're going to take a moment and kind of step away from engagements and such. And the other day we were talking, and you told us a story that kind of speaks to what's been for you a lifelong love for living things, animals. You love your dogs. you have Scout the dog, but you told us a story about a tiger in Vietnam. Would you mind talking a little bit about that?
No, not at all. But I kind of want to set up that I've had dogs all my life, except when I was in the Army. Right. Because my dad and we had water spaniels.
Oh, okay.
And very good hunting dogs. So I grew up with dogs. But over there, we were out beating the bush, and we were kind of like in a clearing, and we had stopped, and we were just talking on the tank, and just kind of resting before we took off again. And we heard a couple of guys about 4 tracks down to pop of an M60. We're looking. Well, they're taking pot shots at this tagger. I don't think they hit it, but just but that's the mindset you get over there. You just want to kill everything when you're there. Right. But there were 5 or 6 of us that went down right away. We got them down off the track. We took their weapons away. Had a very, very serious talk with them. Right. And made them understand that we weren't there to kill animals. Right. And to see that tagger in its natural setting was just, it's a memory I'll never forget. It was so beautiful. Right. So beautiful. And those guys never did it again. you know, and the tiger was going away, and he stopped and he looked back, and then took off, and you know, you couldn't see him, but he stopped to look back, and the guys that went down to stop the shooting, we almost felt like he was looking back saying thanks.
Giving you a wink.
Yeah. Vietnam took any desire to kill out of me.
There's, you know, kind of a reculturation process. You're getting back to what it means to be a civilian, you know, in California, in Sacramento, and getting back to civilian life has taken a lot of hard work for you. Decades, and for your brothers and sisters who spent time in Vietnam. Tell me what the importance is of the vet centers you've been involved with, and of course Chapter 500, if you could.
Well, when I got home, my brother was the only one at the airport, and that was a hurt that I still have, and I did talk to Mom and my sister about it, and we kind of worked it out, and I really made my mom feel bad, and I feel bad about this now because I said, well, Mom, if I would have come home in a box, would you have met me? Yeah. You know, and she didn't have anything to say. So they didn't understand me, and I didn't understand them. I don't think I ever became a civilian again. I think I'm military to this day.
Yeah, right.
It was when I was over there, we were doing what was normal to us. And, you know, your brain gets rewired. They've done studies that, you know, under severe stress and for long periods of time, your brain rewires itself. I kind of fell off the cliff when I got home because there was nothing for us. Nothing, no help at all, not even from my family, which I've let go and in my own way forgiven them. But then in the early 80s, after I moved back from Colorado, I had heard that there's a group of Vietnam veterans that meet on their own over in Del Paso Heights. So I got all the information and went over there, and there were quite a few veterans, and this was the start of the vet centers.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
right.
But we started it.
Yeah, and it's still pretty early on.
Yeah, I mean they haven't started those yet. They got the idea from us.
Right.
Right. All over the country, this is what we were doing.
Exactly.
And they got the idea from us. But that was the first time that I really felt like, wow, okay, I'm with my brothers and things are cool. They got my back.
And this brings home the importance of groups like Chapter 500 and the Vietnam Veterans of America. And we're going to flash on the screen contact information for Chapter 500. So email, website, and also phone number for vets who need that really, really big welcome home. Right. Chapter 500 is a great place to be. It's an awesome group of men and women.
The BVA motto is, never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. Exactly. We were abandoned by the veterans that fought in Korea in World War II.
Right.
So that's, you know, so we help all veterans.
Right, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what war you were in. If you need our help, you need something to help get to the VA, we'll help. About 2 years ago, bless his heart, he must have been 88 years old, but a World War II vet came in for our help.
Yeah. To
help, you know, file for his claim so his family, when he dies, would get some, you know, would have some. That was very touching. I mean, you know, they're getting old.
Yeah, right, right.
Like I said, I was just bounced around from job to job. I lived in Wyoming, was a roughneck on an oil rig there, which is pretty rough. That's why they call it roughnecking. Yeah. Then I moved to Colorado, and I worked for Eastman Kodak, and they had a plant there. And then I became an apprentice carpenter, building custom-made homes. I just bounced around, and then I finally, my first wife left me, and things kind of fell apart. So in '79, I moved back to my home. Yeah, and my mom and stepdad took me in, And my sister got me, she was working for Grant Union School District and got me a job as a custodian, which was great.
Yeah.
VA finally, I was 60% disabled rating, and they finally gave me my 100%. It's permanent, non-reviewable in '02. Somehow or another I heard about VVA 500, and I contacted them, Mary Lou. She invited me to come to their meeting, and that first meeting, I knew I found a home.
Right.
I can go there with those guys and be in a kind of a crotchety mood because of Vietnam, and I do not have to explain myself.
Right.
They know.
Yep.
And vice versa, you know, and
Right.
we really support each other. I joined 3 years ago. Just last month I became a life member. I'm very proud of that. 2 years ago, I ran for the board. We have a president, vice president, secretary, treasury, and 3 at-large board members.
Right.
So I did that for a year, and then this last election in April, I ran for the secretary job, and I got it.
Wow.
So, you know, I'm just very involved with all of our activities. It does me so much good to be active and to be proud.
Yeah.
I am now proud of my service. Proud I went to that war. You know, as much horror and sadness that was over there, I'd do it again in a minute. I'd do the same thing, even knowing the outcome.
Right, and absolutely the tight knit bond that you see at VVA 500 it's a force of nature.
I mean, you can feel it.
You absolutely can. You absolutely can. Jerry, welcome home. And thanks for being on this episode of Valid of Vietnam.
Thank you, my brother.
And I want to say welcome home to all of our veterans, Vietnam and other wars too. And thank you for your service. That concludes our episode of Valid of Vietnam. For Jerry Ward, Christy Dentry, Bob Tribe, India Curry, I'm James Scott. Also want to thank Chapter 500, our friends there. You guys are amazing. I'm James Scott saying thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Valid of Vietnam.